Ghost Trick, Phantom Detective on the Nintendo Switch. Apparently this is a Nintendo DS game that's getting re-released using the RE engine that apparently Capcom used for most of their Resident Evil remakes. They used it to remake Ghouls and Ghosts recently, I want to say. So I guess they're bringing back some of the DS games too using this engine. I'm not going to complain. I mean, if Capcom's just going to use this engine for all of its games, you might as well just use it for these games too. All these old DS games that were trapped on that console that never got a re-release. Apparently this is a puzzle game that I never played because I didn't play many DS games when I owned it. I played at least 24, maybe 30. But I did not have a massive collection of DS games when I had that console. I know Nights in the Nightmare was probably one of the best games I played on that console, but I've played so few I could not tell you. I think I sold. I want to say I sold a bunch of DS games so I can get my Xbox 360. So I'm not complaining. I mean, the only reason I really had it was so I can still hold on to my Game Boy Advance collection at the time. Because I want to say I'd already sold my GameCube, which included the Game Boy player. Probably shouldn't have sold that, but I have very few Game Boy Advance games left. I'm pretty sure I kept. I kept Advance Wars 1, I want to say. Maybe not. I might still have the second one. But I sold Astro Boy a long time ago to get my hands on a Nintendo Wii and or an Xbox 360 because I converted completely to that console when I got my new gig back then. So I sold a bunch of games to get my hands on the new consoles because I could rent games for free back then. So there was no reason for me to hold on to a DS at the time, I guess. The whole world just changed on me. So this is like Yu Yu Hakusho, huh? But apparently the whole trick to Ghost Trick is that you're a poltergeist in a way. So it's like Patrick Swayze in the Ghost movie from 1990 with Demi Moore and Rube Goldberg. I guess the whole trick is turn that into a game where you do like these Rube Goldberg. I guess you like create these little Rube Goldberg puzzles in a way. So you can possess particular objects so that you can, like, in this case, you can save people's life in the real world. So again, you gotta give credit to game developers because a lot of them are like, you know what if we turned this idea and gamified it by adding a bunch of mechanics that, allowed you to control various objects, but only one at a time and only if they're a certain distance. So I guess it's kind of like a turn-based strategy game. We'll see how that goes. And remember, this is a Switch. I'm playing with a gamepad. So we're not going to be touching the screen for any of this stuff. So I'm very curious how the controls have been converted. But remember, I never played the original DS game. So I'm always wondering how games like this made the conversion to the DS unless you use the touchscreen. In all honesty, I've only played one Nintendo Switch game that required a touchscreen. Well, two of them, technically. Because I did play the Time Management Collection. But I want to say I also have the Game Builder Garage, which I haven't done any videos for in a while. I haven't done any videos for that. But I was using that to kind of practice how that Game Builder Garage utility lets you use logic and you're basically creating objects and changing properties to make mini games, like WarioWare-like games. But you could conceivably make a competent, video game from like the 1980s if you know what you're doing. I'm very curious to know how that would work, by the way. So now we can raise the crossing gate. See? That's cute. Well played. I have played quite a few DS games on this channel recently, but they were remakes. Like, I want to say I played some of the later Mega Man Battle Network games. I think Mega Man Battle Network 5 and 6 were DS games, which I never played at the time. But I did get my hands on the Mega Man Battle Legacy Collection, which turns out to be a very bad turns out to be very bad. It's like the Ninja Turtles Cowabunga collection. It's a mediocre. It's a large collection of very iterative games, and in the case of Ninja Turtles, just most of the games are just bad. But in the case of the Mega Man Battle Network, they're very mediocre iterations of a mediocre game, but it had potential at the time. Yeah, so we hopped from the crossing gate to the guitar. So this is where the Rube Goldberg system comes to effect. In fact, in a way, it's kind of like I said, it sounds like a turn-based strategy game because you're trying to move objects in ways that you can jump from one object to the next. So that's kind of cool. So I'm very curious how this is going to play out. But yeah. Guess the zombie trick doesn't work, huh? Okay, we'll use the D-pad. Yeah, what was that DS game? The World Ends With You got a remake recently. I don't think I don't have the demo for that, I don't think. No. I have the demo to the Neo. To Neo, The World Ends With You. Which is the sequel to that, apparently. That's just an action RPG. It's not like a... It's not a belt-scrolling action game like the original DS game was, which I did play. That's one of the few DS games I did play. This game must be really old if they have phones. If they have a phone booth. Was there a TARDIS over here somewhere? Seem to recall the other TB being a huge fan of this Ghost Trick game, which is how I first heard about it. But we probably dropped its name at some point, like back in 2014, and I put it in the back of my memory. But when I saw this demo on the Nintendo shop a few weeks ago, so it just kind of snuck up on me, which is one of the reasons why I wanted to make this video as quickly as I did, because I know people who actually grew up, who were bigger, who were more into the DS lineup than I was, who are going to be fascinated by this remake. Because no one I know is talking about it. Most of the gamers I know weren't big DS heads. They were PSP gamers, if I'm being honest. But I bet there's an entire generation of gamers who grew up in the post-Pokemon era. Like, the Zoomers are probably going to be very interested in this game. Like, all the Ace Attorney fans, probably going to be very interested in this game. Ace Attorney got a remake, I want to say, a few years ago. I barely touched it. I rented it from the library a while ago, and I barely touched it. I don't think I'm going to like it. Like, it sounds like a dialogue tree game, which might be fine, but the whole point of Ace Attorney is that it's sort of like gamers' first introduction to these dialogue tree-based video games. Like, before Disco Elysium, you got these dialogue tree games. Off the top of my head, the only games that come to mind would have been games like maybe Shadowrun on the Super Nintendo had some dialogue trees in it because most of the game was about roaming around an overworld and talking to non-playable characters. And you spoke to them, you had a catalog of keywords that you could select to initiate conversations with them. So it was like a catalog of subjects. You chose the subject from the list, and a character would respond by saying, I don't know. Or they might say something that unlocks another quest or something like that. So most of the game, as I recall, like the first 10 hours of the game, as I recall, on the Super NES, was about talking to people to unlock new keywords on the list so that you can unlock new dialogue options. Okay, now what do we do? I'm not paying attention to any of the story, by the way. So the dead don't have voices in their head? Keep an eye out for thought bubbles. Like I said, the concept behind this game is fascinating. I just hope it holds up as a game. Switch to ghost mode. Now I can jump between different objects. Can't reach the phone. Yeah, I can't reach the phone. What? Oh, unfold. Okay. Peter, check it out of the ghost world. So I can unfold. You can fold it back up again, I guess. L to the ghost world. So in order to perform tricks, so that's how I get to this lamp, I guess. Okay, so that's the trick. Okay, that's literally the trick. I'm always curious if, like, more casual gamers who play, like, more traditional games, like... Well, let me put it this way. There are people who don't play that many video games who might play a game like, you know, Animal Crossing or a Sim City. I'm curious how they would feel about a game like this. Because I know regular gamers, like, they're like... They have very particular tastes, and they don't really like playing, like, games that are, like, bizarre. Like, if they really like first-person shooters, or they really like twin-stick shooters, or shoot-em-ups, you're not going to want to play a game like this. Because it requires a totally different way of looking at the world around, the world inside the game. A totally different set of mechanics that maybe they want to engage with. But again, the reason why I play games like Resident of Fate, you know, Dark Rose Valkyrie, what's the other one that comes to mind? Like, the games I really like that are different tend to be games that are based on ridiculously convoluted mechanics that aren't conventional, so I'm always forced to think differently about how to approach situations. In a game like Resident of Fate, it's a game where simply walking is this redonkulously complicated thing where you could die if you move in the wrong direction, or if you don't properly choose your actions when you're fighting enemies. Simply walking around the overworld is about a hex map that has to be unlocked because enemies drop the hexes you need to unlock that part of the map. It's bizarre. That's what I mean. It's not a game that you engage with in a conventional way. I think Unlimited Saga was kind of like that. It's a game where it's all about dice rolls. But there were so many contrivances built into the mechanics of a game like Unlimited Saga that all the dice rolls were thrown out there. You know, like walking around the overworld was like a game board where you were rolling die to move spaces on a game board. You know what I mean? So games like that get kind of weird. Ghost. It's not a sperm. It's a ghost. I have not seen The Entity, but we won't talk about that. God, that's a movie that would never get made today. A movie literally about a demonic... What was it? It wasn't about demonic possession. It was like Poltergeist, but it's like super woo, apparently. Like, it's about a movie where Barbara Hershey gets attacked by a poltergeist. And again, that story cannot work in the 21st century. The audiences are not interested in that stuff. They might have been creeped out. They might, like, in the age of The Exorcist, I can understand people kind of being down with that. But like the Amityville horror. Well, Poltergeist would still get made, but okay, I'll be honest. I obviously haven't seen that many horror movies in the last few decades. But in the era of Saw, I don't know. Like, okay, The Conjuring probably implies that a film like Entity might get made, but I'm kind of curious how audiences will react to a film like that. Was The Entity even a good movie? I tend to believe it wasn't. But again, it's like the Amityville horror. It's like, yeah, they made a movie about a, quote, based on a true story, unquote. Like, story of a haunted, literally a haunted house. And again, no one would buy that in the age of cell phones. So again, it's like, some stuff just doesn't work. I mean, yeah, you can remake The Exorcist, fine. They're constantly remaking Exorcist stories. They're constantly remaking exorcism stories. Now what? Oh, so he jumped into her body to rewind time. Huh. I bet this game's rated T. Music in this game is suitably funky. I do like it. This is the arranged soundtrack, apparently, so I'm curious how the original music sounds. I mean, the DS is an interesting console, because, I mean, you had games like Rock Band DS, which I did own at one point. Like, that Rock Band DS basically proved that cartridges are basically, they're equal to CD-ROMs, basically. Like, in the old days, CD-ROMs were about, oh yeah, we're streaming music. Which you could have done in a cartridge, because like games like F-Zero X would stream music, would be fine. But it's like, the idea that an entire video game could have like this, could have hours of music just streaming off the disc, or in this case a cartridge, was a big deal back then. So obviously games got to the compression got good enough, and cartridges got large enough that you could afford to like stream a lot of like high quality music off of a cartridge. So the DS was a massive improvement over the Game Boy Advance, which was frankly a really disappointing console in terms of music. Then again, consider the competition. Like, I have not heard a single Game Gear soundtrack, I don't think. And the Lynx, I don't think I've ever heard a good Lynx song, but I have not sampled very much of the Lynx audio. So I'll go back and try some of that later. I am very curious about some of those old consoles that I missed. Like the PC Engine turned out to have some pretty good music when you committed to it, but it never really sounded like... I guess the best way to describe it is the NES had an incredible variety in terms of audio signatures when they were making music for that console. So you would get games like Batman and Blaster Master and Contra and Castlevania 2, which are classics that sound completely different from the stuff you might hear in Zelda or Mario or Metroid. So by the time the console got to like 1988, the audio quality of your average NES game was, well, not average game, but like every year there was a banger soundtrack on the NES that sounded way better than anything that came before it. And of course, if you were living in Japan, you had access to the Famicom, and cartridges there could take advantage of extra sound technology. So by the time 1991 rolled around, you got the Japanese version of Castlevania 3 had music that kind of sounded like a PC-88, I guess. Like, it sounded like digitized. It sounded far more digitized, I guess. The sample quality on Castlevania 3, or Lagrange Point, I think it was called, was way more advanced than anything you could have done on the NES with the regular hardware. In fact, I'll have to re-upload that Castlevania 3 video. The Japanese Castlevania 3 has much better music, but it's not, let me put it this way, it's not a game changer. Imagine if someone took the Castlevania 3 soundtrack and arranged it so it sounded more like an MSX console. Because the MSX console had some really dope music. like a PC-88. Like, those consoles, those computers have very good music. I heard a lot of, like, this amazing soundtracks. I have to flip this. There we go. So I'm on a clock now? Well, I'll see a timer. Yeah. So now we're on a clock. I can't save my game either. These are the days of her life. Or the last days of her life, apparently. So now I'm on a clock. Okay. Roll out. Okay, that is cute. So that gets me closer, I guess. Go back. Open the door. Okay, like I said, we're doing the Rube Goldberg thing again. Clickety clack. But at least the hourglass isn't running anymore. Time is running out. Time is running out. Time is running out. Ooh, okay, sorry. Holla if you know that gem reference. Yeah, I can reach that. Turn on the fan. Ha! That is cute. Did I move it too far? Yeah, I probably moved it too far. Okay, turn it off. Okay, I think I hosed myself. Turned it off. Okay, there we go. Okay, let's turn on the blender. Okay, maybe we're on to something now. Yeah, let's get the fan in there. It's an oscillating fan. Ha! Oh, that's cute. Alright, that is cute. Oh! Okay, so I screwed that up. Okay. There we go. Wait, it didn't move. Oh, here it comes. It's coming. Now I can hop it on. There we go. All right. That is cute. Ha! There you go. Okay. This might be interesting. Trick time. Okay, time doesn't pass in the ghost world. Okay. Pedal. Ring. Ow. Not Jigen. Jigo. Yeah, not Jigen from Lupin. Oh, jeez. We're not done yet, I suppose. Well, let's pedal. Pull the lever. Nope, didn't hear a thing. Extend the ladder. That's cool. Bada bang. Is he dead? Yeah, I don't see him anymore. I guess he died. Yeah, he's dead. Yeah, this game has some very good music so far, so I'll sample some of the original soundtrack later. Fate changed and fate averted. I saw, what's that movie called? Not Deadly Premonition. What? Not Deadly Premonition. Final Destination. Yeah, that one. That was hot for like, I guess a year or so, I suppose. At some point, I think at some point I just kind of jumped the shark. There might have been a shark at some point in one of the Final Destination sequels, and no one would have been surprised.